What if the person you trust the most is already emotionally gone, and you don't even know it yet? Most men believe cheating looks obvious: physical distance, secretive texting. But what if female infidelity is far more silent and far more dangerous? Today, we're pulling back the curtain on something uncomfortable but necessary: how women cheat without leaving a single trace, and how you can protect your relationship before it's too late. Hey everyone, welcome back. Let's talk about something that many men avoid, but absolutely need to understand. It's not about blaming, accusing, or creating fear, it's about awareness. Because once you see the patterns, you can finally take control. There's a common misconception that cheating looks the same whether it's done by a man or a woman. But in reality, the reasons behind it, the emotional buildup, and even the way it's concealed are completely different. Men often cheat for novelty, for validation, for the thrill of the chase. But women? Women cheat when they feel emotionally neglected, unseen, or unheard. And when they reach that point, it's not just a mistake, it's usually the result of a long, emotional disconnection. That's what makes it even more dangerous. By the time a woman actually crosses the line, she's often already disconnected from the relationship mentally, emotionally, and spiritually. And that's what most men miss. It's not just about physical betrayal, it's about emotional abandonment, long before anything physical ever happens. In this video, we're going to unpack the psychological and emotional triggers behind female infidelity. We'll explore the subtle red flags most men overlook, the quiet changes in behavior that whisper something's wrong, and most importantly, the strategies you can use to build lasting trust and emotional connection in your relationship. Remember, the point of this video isn't to make you paranoid. It's to make you prepared. Because once you understand why emotional disconnection happens and how it leads to betrayal, you're no longer in the dark. You're empowered to take action. So, what are those subtle warning signs? And how do you reconnect before it's too late? In the last section, we uncovered the emotional roots behind female infidelity. Now let's go deeper to understand the exact process that quietly leads a woman from connection to disconnection to betrayal. This is a conversation that might challenge what you thought you knew about relationships, so I encourage you to stay with it until the end. It might be one of the most eye-opening things you'll ever hear about modern love. Let's start with the first truth. Why do women cheat? Contrary to popular belief, women don't cheat for the same reasons men do. For many men, cheating can be impulsive, driven by novelty, temptation, or ego. But for women, the path to betrayal is rarely about the physical act itself. It's emotional. And it's intentional. A woman's infidelity is almost never sudden. She doesn't wake up one day and decide to betray her partner. It's a gradual process, one that often begins in silence. It starts with emotional neglect, repeated disconnection, and feeling invisible inside her own relationship. At first, she might not even realize what's happening. The conversations become surface level. Her needs are brushed aside. Her partner may still be physically present, but emotionally absent. And slowly, she begins to detach. She might tell herself she's overthinking, that she's just tired, that it's just a rough patch. But somewhere along the line, something shifts. Another man appears, not necessarily better looking or wealthier, but more attuned. He listens differently. He asks about her ideas, her passions, her daydreams. And for the first time in a long time, she feels interesting again. The emotional affair almost always comes before the physical one. Long before any boundaries are crossed, she has already checked out mentally and emotionally. Now here's the biggest misconception. Many people believe women only cheat when they're miserable or out of love. But that's not always true. Some women still love their partners when they stray. But love and emotional fulfillment aren't the same thing. A woman can care deeply for her man, yet feel romantically numb. She craves more than routine, she craves aliveness. She wants to feel chosen, pursued, inspired. And when those feelings fade inside the relationship, she may start to seek them outside, not because she's selfish, but because she wants to feel alive again. And the man who captures her heart? It's often not the most attractive or powerful. It's the one who makes her feel something real. So what's the solution? It's not control, not suspicion, not reading her messages or demanding proof. It's presence. Emotional presence is the single, most powerful form of loyalty you can offer. It means noticing her energy, listening with curiosity, valuing her thoughts even when she doesn't say them out loud. Because a woman who feels emotionally seen, heard, and deeply valued doesn't go looking elsewhere. But this emotional drift doesn't happen overnight. So how can you spot the warning signs early? Earlier, we explored how emotional disconnection often begins silently. Now let's look at the subtle but powerful warning signs that signal a woman is no longer emotionally invested. Because when a woman stays in a relationship, it's not because she has to, it's because she wants to. And when that want fades, the signs often appear long before she physically walks away. Let's break down two of the most misunderstood red flags that a woman is losing interest. The first sign: silence. A lot of men assume that fewer arguments, fewer emotional outbursts, and less nagging must mean the relationship is finally improving. But in many cases, it means the opposite. When a woman stops reacting, it's not a sign of peace, it's a sign of detachment. Silence in this context doesn't mean she's content. It means she's emotionally checking out. Remember, when she still cares, she fights, she brings up issues, she challenges your choices. She might complain or even raise her voice, not because she wants to hurt you, but because she still believes the relationship is worth fixing. That frustration? It comes from hope. But when she stops voicing concerns, when she no longer questions the things that used to upset her, when she simply nods or shrugs or doesn't respond at all, that's when you should really pay attention. She's not at peace. She's just disengaging. She's slowly letting go of the expectation that anything will change. And that's when she begins to emotionally invest elsewhere. At first, this withdrawal is subtle. She may stop initiating conversations about the future. She might seem indifferent during moments that once brought her joy or sparked arguments. Intimacy becomes rare, not because she's tired or distracted, but because she's creating distance as her new normal. The emotional energy that once drove her connection with you now fades, or worse, begins to shift towards someone else. And here's the harsh truth: indifference is far more dangerous than anger. When a woman still argues, she believes there's something left to save. When she goes quiet, it often means she's already made peace with the idea of walking away. This kind of emotional drift doesn't happen overnight, and it doesn't come without signals. So what else should you be looking for? In the last section, we talked about how emotional detachment often speaks louder than arguments. When a woman goes silent, she's already halfway out the door mentally and emotionally. And that's why recognizing these signs early is crucial. Because once emotional disconnection sets in, your window to rebuild the bond starts to close. But if you act early by reconnecting emotionally, reigniting attraction, and addressing what's really broken, you can stop the drift before it turns into a goodbye. Now, let's dive into something few people are willing to admit. Why do women rarely get caught when they cheat? It's not because women cheat less than men. It's because when they do cheat, they're far more discreet. Unlike men, whose infidelity is often impulsive, leaving behind half-deleted texts, strange behavior, or suddenly changing routines, women move with quiet precision. They don't act out of the moment. They plan, calculate, and clean up before anything ever happens. A woman who's decided to step outside the relationship has likely already processed it emotionally. She's justified it in her mind. That internal detachment allows her to continue her normal routines without raising suspicion. Because to her, this isn't a sudden act of betrayal. It's a decision made long ago. There's no panic, no scrambling, no odd behavior. Everything seems normal, which is exactly why it's so hard to detect. Compare this to a man who cheats out of impulse, often without thinking. He reacts emotionally in the moment and tries to cover it up after the fact. That's when mistakes happen. That's when trails get left behind. But for women, it's different. Another key difference? Opportunity. Most men, when they want to cheat, have to seek it out. They chase, they pursue, they test the waters. Women, they don't have to chase. Attention often finds them, even when they're not looking for it. Compliments, flirtation, emotional support, it's all there, waiting in plain sight. So when a woman chooses to cheat, she doesn't initiate. She simply responds. That allows her to maintain a level of emotional and moral distance. If confronted, she may even say, "I didn't start it." This dynamic gives her a sense of plausible deniability and makes her actions far harder to detect. But here's something even more important to understand. Infidelity often starts long before it ever becomes physical. The moment she begins to feel emotionally disconnected from her partner, the doorway to someone else begins to open. She doesn't just hide her actions out of guilt. She hides them because in her mind, the relationship has already ended. And that emotional detachment combined with a natural ability for discretion is what makes female infidelity so difficult to uncover. So how can you protect your relationship? Not through control, but through connection? Previously, we uncovered how a woman's emotional detachment and discretion can make infidelity nearly invisible until she decides it no longer needs to be hidden. But what happens when the truth finally surfaces? What's the cost on the other side of that discovery? Let's now talk about one of the most painful realities a man can face: the devastating emotional impact of being cheated on. When a man finds out his woman has been unfaithful, it's not just the act itself that crushes him, it's what that act represents. It shakes him to his core. This isn't just about trust being broken. It's about his identity being fractured. A woman choosing another man emotionally, physically, or both, strikes directly at his sense of self-worth, his masculinity, and everything he thought he was providing in the relationship. He may have poured everything into being the provider, the protector, the man who stayed loyal and dependable. And yet, she still went elsewhere. That realization cuts deeper than most people understand. It's not just pain, it's devastation, because underneath that betrayal are the haunting questions that don't go away easily. What did the other man have that I didn't? Was I ever really enough for her? Was everything we built just a lie? It's not just about losing her, it's about losing the sense of being chosen. And when that crumbles, it leaves behind a quiet, lingering shame. What's worse is that this kind of wound doesn't come from a fight he could have won. It's not like other struggles in life, where hard work or resilience can fix the damage. This wasn't a challenge he failed. It was a battle he never knew he was in. Woman he trusted, the one he believed was truly his, gave part of herself to someone else. And no matter how strong he is, nothing can ever fully undo that. Men process this betrayal in different ways. Some explode outwardly, consumed by anger, seeking revenge, desperate to reclaim a sense of control. Others turn inward, emotionally, shutting down, retreating into silence, refusing to trust again. Some leave the relationship entirely, but carry the scars with them into every future connection. And while they might move on physically, change partners, rebuild careers, put on a confident face, part of them remains frozen in time. Stuck at the moment they realized they were no longer the only man in her world. Because for a man, cheating isn't just about losing love. It's about losing certainty, the belief that he was enough, that what he gave was valued, that the connection was real. So the question becomes, how does a man recover from this level of betrayal? And more importantly, how can a relationship survive it? In the last section, we explored the deep emotional damage a man experiences when he's betrayed, not just through an act of infidelity, but through what that act represents: the collapse of self-worth, trust, and masculine identity. But betrayal isn't always about the surface event. It's about what drives it underneath. Let's now examine a harder question. Can a relationship survive cheating, especially when the betrayal comes from the woman? For many men, the pain of being cheated on is more than emotional, it's existential. Some try to rationalize it. Maybe they blame bad timing, poor communication, or claim they were both going through things. But deep down, they know the truth. A woman who genuinely respects, values, and loves her man doesn't seek comfort in another man's arms. When she does, it sends a powerful message, one that strikes at the heart of his dignity. Now, here's where things become even more complex. When a woman cheats, it's rarely just a careless lapse in judgment. Her reasons often reveal far more than just a temporary weakness. While popular culture often paints cheating as purely physical, that's seldom the case with women. For them, infidelity is usually rooted in emotional or psychological dissatisfaction. Some women cheat out of boredom, not because they want to hurt their partner, but because they feel stuck, uninspired, or invisible in the relationship. Others cheat after long periods of emotional neglect. They feel unheard, unseen, unappreciated, like they're simply existing next to someone, not truly connected with them. And then there are women who cheat intentionally because they believe they've found someone better, someone who excites them, listens more, sees them. If her cheating is purely about thrill or excitement, regret may set in quickly. But even then, the regret isn't always about the pain she caused her partner. It's often about betraying her own values. She may wrestle with guilt, not because she no longer loves him, but because she doesn't want to see herself as someone capable of betrayal. If she still cares for the relationship, she might go to great lengths to undo the damage, covering her tracks, showing sudden affection, or even confessing in hopes of forgiveness. But the story takes a very different turn when the infidelity stems from emotional abandonment. When a woman has been feeling disconnected, overlooked, or emotionally starved for too long, she may not even see her actions as betrayal. In her mind, she wasn't cheating, she was seeking what she deserved. And in this scenario, Guilt rarely appears. Instead of feeling remorse, she feels justified. She starts to see her partner as emotionally inadequate, incapable of meeting her needs. And once that perception forms, it almost never reverses. Something inside her shifts permanently. Then, there's the most final version of all. The woman who never regrets it. She cheats, and, in doing so, finds someone who, at least in her eyes, is better, more attentive, more alive, more present. The affair wasn't a mistake. It was a transition. By the time she starts picking fights, pulling away, or going cold, it's not a warning, it's a farewell. When she finally walks away, she does so without looking back. No breakdown, no guilt, no hesitation. Because to her, the relationship ended long before the cheating began. And here's the brutal truth. Most women don't regret cheating. What they regret is getting caught. They regret the fallout, the damage to their image, the risk to their stability, the awkwardness of the consequences. But the act itself? Often, they've already made peace with it. So how do you protect yourself from this silent erosion? And what does it take to rebuild after this level of betrayal, if it's even possible? Previously, we uncovered a painful truth. Many women don't regret the act of cheating itself. They regret the consequences. And for the man left behind, the most heartbreaking part is realizing it wasn't a mistake. It was a decision. A quiet, calculated shift away from him. But now comes the question that matters most. Can it be prevented? Let's talk about something essential, yet often overlooked. How to prevent cheating before it ever begins. Here's the truth. A man cannot simply demand loyalty. He can't expect it to show up just because there's a ring on her finger, a shared apartment, or a long relationship history. Loyalty isn't given, it's earned. And more importantly, it's sustained. One of the biggest mistakes men make is believing that once a woman commits, the work is done. They think financial stability, protection, or time invested is enough to guarantee faithfulness. But women don't stay loyal out of duty. They stay because they feel alive emotionally, mentally, and physically in the relationship. When that sense of connection fades, so does her devotion. A woman's emotional bond with her man is the foundation of her loyalty. And that goes far beyond just being around. It means being present with intention, genuinely listening to her, engaging with her ideas, validating her emotions. Not just hearing her words, but truly understanding the feelings behind them. When a woman feels emotionally seen and valued, she has no reason to seek connection anywhere else. Yet many men unintentionally drift away emotionally. They grow distant. They stop checking in. They assume that showing up physically is enough. But for a woman, surface-level presence isn't enough. She needs depth. The man who takes the time to learn her inner world, her struggles, her dreams, her fears builds a connection that's not easily broken. That kind of emotional intimacy becomes a fortress against temptation. Now let's talk about something just as crucial: physical desire. Many men get too comfortable in long-term relationships. They believe the initial attraction will simply last forever. But desire, like anything alive, must be fed. And it's not just about physical appearance. It's about how you make her feel. It's the way you carry yourself, the confidence in your energy, the subtle, everyday ways you express attraction, a lingering hand on her lower back, a teasing smile across the room, an unexpected compliment whispered in the middle of a mundane day. Those small sparks, they keep the flame alive. A woman who feels desired by her Man is far less likely to seek that feeling elsewhere. But there's one more killer of connection we often overlook: predictability. When a relationship slips into routine, same conversations, same reactions, same rhythms, excitement starts to disappear. And when excitement fades, attention drifts. The men who keep a woman's interest understand this. They bring in surprise. They take her on unplanned dates. They playfully challenge her. They create a sense of mystery, not because they're hiding something, but because they keep evolving. They make sure she never feels like she's figured them out completely. That unpredictability keeps her engaged and craving more. Here's the bottom line: a woman's loyalty isn't something you lock in once and forget. It's a living reflection of how emotionally and physically connected she feels to you. When that connection fades and she no longer feels desired or understood, someone else will eventually fill that void. That's why the men who truly understand this don't leave loyalty up to chance. They nurture it through presence, through passion, through effort that doesn't fade with time. But what if it's already too late? What if the betrayal has already happened? We just explored how loyalty is something that must be nurtured, not assumed. Passion, presence, and emotional connection are what keep relationships alive. But even when all of that is in place, there's still a question many people quietly wrestle with. Is monogamy even realistic? Or is it a beautiful lie we keep telling ourselves? For centuries, monogamy has been celebrated as the foundation of long-term commitment. But it has also been debated, questioned, and in some circles outright rejected. Why? Because many believe that human beings simply aren't wired for lifelong exclusivity. Those who challenge monogamy often point to our natural craving for novelty, for excitement, for that rush of something new. They argue that monogamy forces us to fight against our biology, that our instincts are built around variety, exploration, and stimulation. According to this perspective, affairs aren't always rooted in dissatisfaction or resentment. Sometimes they're just a byproduct of an ancient, evolutionary pull toward new experiences. This is why even people in happy, loving relationships can still find themselves tempted. Not because they don't care for their partner, but because the unfamiliar awakens something primal. The thrill of the unknown, the chase, the spark of curiosity that whispers, "What if?" But here's the deeper truth most people miss. Monogamy doesn't fail because it's unnatural. It fails when it becomes uninspired. When two people stop investing in each other, emotionally and physically. When daily life becomes routine. Conversations turn repetitive and intimacy fades. That's when commitment begins to crumble. Infidelity, in many cases, is not proof that monogamy is broken. It's a symptom of neglect, of connection that was left to wither, of emotional and romantic needs that were ignored for too long. People don't just seek variety for the sake of variety. They seek the feeling of being deeply desired. They crave the energy, the aliveness, the pulse of passion that makes them feel wanted and seen. And this is where successful monogamous relationships stand apart. They don't survive simply because two people made a vow. They thrive because both partners choose each other again and again. They challenge each other intellectually. They surprise each other emotionally. They keep the spark alive not through grand gestures, but through meaningful effort shared. Laughter, unexpected touches, intimate conversations, and continued curiosity. A man who understands this doesn't see monogamy as a cage. He sees it as a chance to deepen connection, to build something rich, layered, and lasting. He doesn't take his partner's presence for granted. He finds new ways to create desire, to spark attraction, to bring mystery and playfulness into the everyday moments. So no, monogamy isn't doomed. And it's not a fantasy either. It's simply a framework that requires awareness, dedication, and intention. Those who treat their relationship as a living experience, not a locked-in agreement, discover a truth that many overlook: that deep, consistent, evolving connection can be even more thrilling than novelty. But what happens when one partner still seeks that thrill elsewhere? What if forgiveness is on the table? Should it always be taken? In the last section, we explored whether monogamy is sustainable, and we learned that deep connection, not routine, is what makes loyalty last. Now let's bring everything full circle with some final reflections on the bigger picture of infidelity, trust, and what truly keeps a relationship alive. Let's talk about what it all means. The question of whether women cheat more than men has been debated for years. And while statistics may offer some insight, the real answer is far more complex. Historically, men have been more likely to engage in infidelity. But today, the gap is closing rapidly. Modern women, empowered by independence, autonomy, and evolving social norms, are no longer staying in relationships that leave them emotionally empty or physically unfulfilled. When their needs aren't being met, more women than ever are stepping outside their relationships, not out of rebellion, but out of a deep desire for something they're not getting at home. And unlike many men, whose infidelity is often driven by opportunity or physical impulse, women usually cheat for emotional reasons. They crave connection, appreciation, the thrill that once existed but slowly faded. They aren't chasing variety. They're chasing value, the feeling of being wanted, heard, and understood. For men, discovering a partner's infidelity can feel like the ground has crumbled beneath them. It's not just the betrayal, it's the collapse of trust they believed was permanent. That sense of security shatters. But the question remains, can cheating ever be forgiven? The truth is, it depends. Some men may see betrayal as the end of everything. Others may be willing to look deeper, to understand the why behind the action, and to rebuild if genuine remorse and effort are present. But one thing is certain: once trust is broken, it never returns in its original form. It can be rebuilt, but like a vase that's been shattered and glued back together, the cracks will always remain. That's why prevention through presence, effort, and emotional connection is everything. Infidelity is never just about the act itself. It's about what was missing that led to it. Relationships that lack emotional depth, passion, or mutual respect slowly create the conditions where betrayal becomes possible. It doesn't happen overnight. It happens when both people stop showing up with intention. Men who build long-lasting, loyal relationships don't rely on hope or routine. They work at it. They keep the attraction alive. They stay emotionally engaged. They understand that loyalty isn't a given. It's something that's earned and nurtured over time. Because the truth is, cheating isn't inevitable. It happens when connection fades. When a relationship becomes more about surviving than thriving. So if you take anything from this video, let it be this: if you want loyalty, create a space where she never wants to leave. Keep the relationship alive with curiosity, playfulness, and presence. And above all, never become emotionally lazy. When a woman feels fulfilled emotionally, mentally, and physically, she won't go looking elsewhere. Now I'd love to hear from you. Have you ever experienced emotional disconnection in a relationship? What helped you rebuild trust or keep the bond strong? Drop your thoughts in the comments below. I Read every one of them. And if this video opened your eyes or resonated with your own journey, don't forget to like, subscribe, and turn on notifications. There's so much more to explore when it comes to emotional intelligence, attraction, and self-mastery. I'll see you in the next one.